Hi, everyone, and welcome. It is so wonderful to have you here. I wish we were all in person. We all wish the world was in person, but it's wonderful to join you virtually. I'm Lynn Smith. I am a national media expert and anchor alum from NBC News, MSNBC, CNN Headline News, but most importantly, I have a house that I have no idea what to do with. Like the rest of us in COVID, as Pam put it with the JCC, it's kind of like the banana bread of COVID. Home renovation is something that we have all been tackling in this pandemic, and that's why I'm so excited for tonight. First and foremost, I want to welcome you, and also I want, on behalf of the Book Festival of the MJCCA and the National JCC Literary Consortium, I just want to welcome you here to this very special book fest in your living room. If you are looking around at the walls surrounding you, I'm sure you're wondering which one you want to knock down or what paint color you want to switch. And that's what we're here for, because I'm joined by a superstar, HGTV superstar, Jasmine Roth. She is the author of House Story. It's the insider secrets to the perfect home renovation, which I know if you've been through a renovation, I'm not sure that that's possible. But Jasmine, now that I have your book, I do know it is possible. You have done a beautiful job drilling this down for the average homeowner, just checklists, pros and cons, and taking us through, as a storyteller, I appreciate this, the story of our home. So first and foremost, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. What an introduction. I really appreciate it.
I mean it though, and maybe it's special to me because I'm going through this myself and I feel so stuck. And I know a lot of people listening right now are probably burning with questions of all different things that they're tackling. So I do want to encourage you listening and watching to use that Q&A button. It's right next to the raise your hand, not in the chat, but use that for a Q&A. I'm going to get to as many as I can. So chime in when you want. But Jasmine, I do want to start with the beginning of the book because you said something that was completely unexpected to me. You said, have you ever walked into someone's house who's really interesting and their house doesn't tell their story? And I never thought of that way. What do you mean by your house telling your own personal story?
Well, that was what really inspired me to write this book. A million years ago, it actually wasn't a million years ago, it feels that way. When I first got into home construction, it was by accident. And my husband and I had taken on this project, and it was a big project. And at one point, we realized we were in over our heads and we had to make a decision. And that decision that we came up with was that I was going to leave my job and manage that project until it was finished. And someday I would go back to work. Well, I never went back to work. I'm still managing home renovation projects, 10 years later. And, what I realized during that process, though, is that our homes are a reflection of us, or they can be a reflection of us. And if they are a reflection of us, if we can accomplish that, it is a wonderful way to find happiness. And so that process was eye-opening to me. That concept was eye-opening to me. And as I started culling together information and eventually putting it, pen to paper into this book, I realized that that's what it was all about. If we can embed our homes with personality, if we can fill our homes with things that make us happy, that feel like they're us, that remind us of the good times. And, if that just uniqueness is within the walls of our homes, that is what makes it feel like home.
It makes me think of a particular picture in the book, and Pam with JCC is actually going to show us some of the pictures from within it because it's absolutely beautiful. And you show pictures from within your own home. And there's one in particular that is your entryway. Here's the cover of the book, but it's an entryway that has this word find in it. And it's a friend of yours that actually did this. It's right here.
This is
so
by the
cool.
way, right now I'm in my warehouse. This is the Built Custom Homes warehouse. So this is not my house. It looks like a storage room. It is. Don't worry about that. This photo though, this is my living room in my house now. I moved in when my daughter was 3 months old, right as I was finishing or trying to finish this book. So this was the last house that we photographed for the book. I had to finish it. Get it completely photo ready, which was a great challenge when you have a newborn. But this word search is a great example of something that it might not be for everybody, but for me and for my family, It was the perfect way to bring a little bit of personality into an otherwise, neutral kind of just run of the mill staircase. I mean, it's a beautiful staircase, but I built it from the ground up. But I think, this is the thing that catches your eye. And so, I called my friend. He paints signs for a living for like commercial buildings. And I said, hey, I need you to come paint a giant 2-story word search on my wall. He's like, I'm in. So we designed it. And, he was out there the next week. So it's things like this where this is paint. At the end of the day, if I were to sell the house and this wasn't to someone's taste, we just paint right over it. So it's encouraging, readers to do things in their homes that are different, that make them happy, that tell their house story. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like a major construction project.
Because that's so overwhelming, not just personally, but that you can't find anyone right now. Anyone that's trying to renovate, they are struggling just to find people to do this. Do you have tips for those people? Because even just trying to get shutters or a couch, we're all struggling.
Yeah, we're all struggling, and it is a major problem right now. I think, just like a lot of the things that we've been through in the past year and a half, we do have to be patient. But there are definitely some tips and tricks as far as, if you do find a good contractor, how to communicate with that contractor, and also how to find a good contractor, because that's a challenge as well. So I've included a lot of those in the book. The other thing that I've included in the book that I have found hugely helpful, I do it for my clients all the time, and Pam can bring them up, are these design boards. And so I included full design boards for multiple houses in the back of the book, and then I've put them throughout the chapters as well. So if you are trying to design a home, for example, this is contemporary, organic, mid-modern. So once you've identified your design style, you may want to go through and see if there's anything in these design boards that speaks to you, because if there is, it's as easy as going into the index in the back of the book and looking where I found it, because these are all real items in the world today that you can purchase and that I've used on different projects. So the paint colors are paint colors I use every single day. HGTV, I've done a lot of projects for HGTV at this point, and so these are tried and true. And I think that's helpful, if you're not going to hire a designer, or even if you are going to hire a designer, to be able to share your design story with them and your design style and what makes you happy and what doesn't. It's tough. So this book is a great resource.
Because it's not like, they don't have wonderful ideas. And yes, it may be on trend, but it might not tell any part of your story. You have to find out what's unique about you. That's what I took away from the beginning of this book that I hadn't thought of. And now I'm kind of wishing I would have done a couple of things differently. I don't want to glaze over what you were talking about your career shift. And there's actually a viewer right now that's asking the question that I was wondering as well. What was the job that you left? Because there are a lot of Americans right now leaving their jobs. They're taking a leap of faith. They're trying something new. And you address it in the beginning, in the foreword of this book.
So I went to college in Boston. I'm originally from Virginia, and I met my husband in college. He wasn't my husband then, but we were dating eventually. We were actually roommates. But at the end of school, he is from California. And so I moved to California. I live in Southern California now, and my whole family followed me. So I was able to kind of make this my home and plant some roots here. And I got into business consulting because I was an entrepreneurship business major, and it was 2008, and it was very hard to find a job in 2008. But business consulting was perfect for me. I learned a lot. It was corporate America. I was on a fast track. But on the side, my husband and I had purchased a piece of land, and we decided that we were going to build an investment house, a house to sell, and a house right next to it for us to live in. And so what I mentioned earlier was about 2 years. I wish it was 2 weeks.
Impressive, Jasmine.
Yeah, I work really fast. No, it was 2 years into that project, and we were still at the framing stage, which anybody that knows anything about new home construction, you're not that far along at that stage. Like, we'd gotten a lot done, but it was taking all of our spare time, if we had any. My husband and I were both working full time at Plus, and then trying to just make all these decisions our builder needed, and we knew nothing. In retrospect, I really literally knew nothing. And so that is how I got into this industry. I quit my job. I went to as a business consultant. I went to the job site, and told these guys, we're going to finish this house and I'm going to sell one of them, which is exactly what I did. And my husband and I moved into the other one. And that's actually the house that you see on the front of this book. So this is the staircase of that house that I finished building. This is my little dog, Tiger. And
with your hidden spaces, I had to ask you about these hidden spaces and how you make use of them. I love the dog cave instead of the man cave.
Well, it could be the man cave, if they
get in the doghouse.
They're in the doghouse. I actually have a good friend who spent the night in here once, because this is like a foam bed, and he just crawled in there and he was like, this is the most comfortable place in the house. And I was like, okay. But the reason that this is on the front of the book is because my husband and we had framed this out right under the stairs, and I was looking at it and I was like, it looks like there's extra space in past the wood studs. And I asked my builder, I was like, oh, so what goes in there? And he was like, nothing. And I was like, what do you mean nothing? I was like, that's like good storage or something, right? And he was like, well, what do you want? And that question, what do you want? I was like, wait a minute, what do I want? This is my house. Like, it dawned on me that I could do whatever I want. I didn't have to do whatever the builder told me necessarily. And I didn't have to do whatever I thought other people, would want for me to do or something like that. I could do whatever I wanted. And so my husband and I started talking about it. And we had 3 dogs at the time. And we were like, we're going to put in a dog cave. And that's exactly what we did. And it kind of kicked off my whole career. I had a show on HGTV called Hidden Potential, which highlighted a lot of hidden spaces. I still love a good hidden space. But this area right here is what opened my eyes to the fact that your home can be a representation of your personality and of your style. And if it is, it will truly make you happy.
What a neat story. And would you have ever thought back then when you were carving out that space that it would be not only on this book, but that you would be this HGTV star? Now your book or your show, Help, I Wrecked My House, so wildly popular. I mean, everybody takes a leap of faith. Maybe it's not leaving their job, but to take that leap of faith and to be successful, but then to on top of it be discovered by HGTV. How did that happen?
That's a whole nother story. I was on the job site and I was doing all of these projects and I was really enjoying it. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll go back to work someday, because I was taking on clients, and I started taking on clients for free. And I was like, I will do your project for free because I had some other big builds that were going to pay the bills, as long as I can take photos. And so I started building my portfolio and posting things online. And so I had about 1,500 Instagram followers. And HGTV had reached out via production company, and a production company sent me an email and they said, hey, we're really interested. I thought it was spam. I thought it was fake. I mean, yeah, it was out of nowhere. And I was like, what? Like me? What am I doing? But I think it was a little bit of that imposter syndrome where you don't know, I didn't realize how much I had learned and how far I had come. And basically, the point of this book is, when I thought about the task of setting out, like, okay, I want to write a book. I knew that I wanted to share all of this information that I've learned, right? So I started out knowing nothing. I started out the way that most people that are going to buy this book feel if they're starting any sort of project. They don't know where to begin. They don't really know what the process is. They're not sure about the budget. They're not really sure about much. And that's how I went into this. I think that, by sharing everything I know, there's nothing I didn't share in this book. I put it all out there. By sharing everything, my hope is that a few less people will go through that process the way that I did, which was, it was overwhelming. It kicked my butt. And, it wasn't enjoyable. And I think a lot of people find that where if they survive their renovation, they're like, oh my gosh, never again. And that it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be, this mysterious process that, ruins people's lives. And literally, I mean, I have to say, on Help, I Wrecked My House, we see it, but I see it with my clients every day. A renovation is one of the hardest things that most relationships go through, right? So I literally play the role of a marriage counselor day in and day out with my clients. And it's just because it's really hard to agree. It's really hard when you have two different styles or two different ideas to make them mix somewhere. And especially when you're kind of in uncharted territories and there's a lot of money involved and there's timelines involved. And so I will say that in this book, I share as much advice as I can. And the first chapter is about finding your style. And it's not just your style, it's you and whoever else you're doing your project with. If both of you can identify your individual styles, I then give a roadmap for how to put those styles together. And that, if you can follow it, is the key to success for not losing your minds when you're doing a renovation.
Or losing your marriage. You
Exactly.
also you share client photos. I mean, all of this experience in one place. And hopefully, Amber, as you're watching and you ask the question, if you have any advice for those breaking into the industry, it's take that leap of faith, take on those clients for free, build that from the ground up, accept the life of an entrepreneur that comes with the failures and successes, as Jasmine has shared. When it comes to you in your own personal space, you have a little one. You have a little girl who's gorgeous, by the way. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How did that change you as a designer? I mean, we can't have all the fancy schmancy things up on the mantle and we can't have the fine china out. What did you change?
I've always designed for families. And so that really kind of set me up for when I had my own daughter. I had already designed multiple nurseries, multiple playrooms. I'm constantly thinking about dogs and kids and surfboards. And, I live in Southern California. So it's that California casual, that indoor, outdoor living. I do that day in and day out. But when I had Hazel, I realized, like I mentioned, I moved 3 months after having her. I realized just how important how important it is that your spaces really work for your family. So, depending on what stage you're in, your house, I call it different seasons of our life. Your house has to be able to move through those seasons and serve you. And so, it's in some seasons of your life, you need organization. At some seasons of your life, you need lines of sight. You need to be able to see your kids. You need to be able to, have them close by so you can still get things done. I mean, we all know we've been through these different seasons at this point, but, and at some seasons you need a lot of walls and doors. So
Locks,
all the things. And I do talk about that in the book, about being really honest with yourself about what you need out of your house, and then not being, scared or timid when it comes to making your house work for you. Because at the end of the day, it's your house. And so if your child plays the drums, or if you play the drums, you need to realize that and work it into your renovation or your build, or even if you're a renter and you're trying to figure out how to set up your furniture or paint your walls. There's kind of something for everybody in this book, but part of that is being true to yourself and realizing how you use your space, or how you could be using your space.
The space everybody uses, and you call it the heart of the house. It's so true. It's the kitchen, right? I mean, every single dinner party I've ever hosted, everyone ends up around the island and you're cooking and everyone's having a glass of wine. Your appetizers are all out. What do you, and I love the different layouts that you give for people that are looking at their kitchen and it's not the heart yet. How do you come to that perfect design of a kitchen that just speaks to you, other than the Smeg refrigerator that we're all obsessed with?
Yeah, I think, I do include a whole chapter on the kitchen, and I've done, of all the renovations I've done, 99% of them have included a kitchen, because, the kitchen, if you can get your style figured out in chapter 1, and then you can keep that style and get it into your kitchen design and really have a kitchen that not only looks like something you would love, but works for your family, you're really going to be happy. As far as the kitchen goes, the thing that I'm most excited about in this book, that it's really nerdy, so just stick with me here, I included a proprietary checklist. And so every single project I do, I have a checklist before I start, and it helps make the budget, it helps make the timeline, and it really helps you don't forget anything. Because when you're doing a kitchen renovation, or when you're doing a new build for a kitchen, if you think of it in the beginning, it's easy. And some examples might be, built-in trash into your cabinetry, like a trash can, a cabinet that pulls out that has the trash in it. Or maybe you want filtered water on your sink, or maybe your refrigerator needs water run to it so that it has the filtered water and the ice machine. These are things that are really easy if you think about them ahead of time. But if you finish your renovation and the tile is up and everything's done and your appliances arrive and you go to plug them in and you don't have some water at your refrigerator, you're going to be kicking yourself, because then you have to rip everything apart and run the water. And so, in true fairness, like in all honesty, these are things that I've learned as a designer and a builder over the years, that I've made these mistakes. And the good news is you don't have to, because the checklist I've included includes everything I've ever thought of.
That's why I loved it. It felt like Jasmine Roth is in your house walking you through this. And you even say that in the beginning, you say, I'll hold your hand through this process, because a lot of us, we can't afford a designer. It is so expensive. And I'm getting a lot of questions from people watching about budgeting, yes, especially when it comes to, I have my design, I want to save up for this big fancy renovation, but I don't know that I have the budget. What advice do you have there?
So I personally couldn't afford a designer on my first house. And so I fully feel that pain, and you don't need a designer. You can do this, especially if you have this book. And it is really, it's true. You can do it. It's going to take a little bit of work and a little bit of time, but you can do it. As far as budget goes, budget's one of those things that, it's kind of like I don't know, nobody talks about the budget, but I never shy away from talking about the budget, because if you can get a handle on the budget from day one, again, it's going to make your project go smooth. It's going to take some of the worry and the anxiety and the stress out of the project, and hopefully make it something that's enjoyable. So day one, what I do is I make a list. Again, back to my checklist and my list. I make a list of every single thing that I have to do. And then I start plugging in how much those things are going to cost. And a lot of times it's a general contractor that's going to help you do that. Folks ask the best way to find a general contractor. If you have the opportunity to walk around and talk to your neighbors, if you know someone who's renovated in your neighborhood or in your building, I recommend just chatting with people. A referral, it goes a million miles when it comes to construction, especially if it's somebody that's already worked in your neighborhood. Chances are they understand your house because it was built by the same builder. And so, yeah, that goes a long way to find a general contractor. And once you find a general contractor, it's totally normal to have them come out and meet with you. And if you have a list already, you can put them on the spot right there and say, okay, this kitchen, I want to do X, this, and they can say, okay, this is this much. And that's how you start building your budget.
And then you can redline.
Yeah. And you always want to set aside what's called a contingency, because there will always be something you didn't think of or a change. And you want to make sure that those things you're prepared for, the unknown, right? Prepare for what you don't know. It's really hard to do. But we usually set aside anywhere from like 5 to 15% of the overall budget. We add another, just so that we don't feel like we are so overwhelmed when things change.
Because inevitably it's going to.
Oh, it always does. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's impossible for things to go perfectly, especially when other people are involved. When it comes to something that you've made a decision on and then you change your mind, especially when we spend a lot of money, I wonder why small bathrooms, and somebody else in here was chiming in, things like small bathrooms and draperies, why do they cost so much? So when we make the decision on them, we should have them for 20 years. And then all of a sudden you walk by and you're like, I hate that. Why did I do that? How do we combat this? Not saying that I've done it, but yes, I've done it.
I've done it a million times, and guilty as charged, right? We've all done that. My recommendation is, when it comes to construction, when it comes to the things that are really hard to change, the flooring, the tile, the actual fixtures, try to keep it as timeless and neutral as possible. The odds of you getting sick of something or regretting something that's not as trendy are low, right? So the trendier they are, the riskier they are, the more likely that you'll love them at first, or maybe not even love them at first, but then you'll get sick of them. So I recommend adding in things that feel a little bit trendier, a little bit edgier, through accessories. And whether it's a paint color, paint's easy. So you can always paint. Wallpaper, they have great peel and stick wallpaper options now. So it's basically a giant sticker. And when you're over it, you literally pull it off and you can start over. I love accessorizing with, if it's a bathroom, as you mentioned, do a pop of color with the towels or the art or something that's really easy to change out. Don't buy a pink toilet and a pink sink because it's something that you might like, but it's not that easy to change. And, while I encourage people to make their houses their own, I also encourage my clients to always have an eye for resale. And so if you're doing things that are going to make your house less approachable and, less interest, that are going to kind of lower the interest for potential buyers, it's probably not your best move. And some people, I have clients where they're like, you know what? I don't care. This is my forever home. I'm doing it. And I say, you know what? Go for it. But I'd warned you, And so, but for most of us, I think, it's nice to know that if we did get transferred for work, or if we did, just decide to move, we're not so stuck in our houses, and that we could change a few things out and easily resell that house.
And what are some of those trends? You think back in the houses in the 90s when that was like, oh, you were it if you had those countertops and like the black granite, right? Like you were fancy. And now you walk in and it's like, how much is it going to cost us to tear this apart? So what are the trends that are coming that in 20 years, we're all going to be like, can you believe that was happening?
Well, first of all, I don't have a magic ball. I wish I knew. I will say, within 20 years, pretty much anything you do today is going to need a refresh. There is a lifespan on all construction. So don't fool yourself thinking that like you're going to build this house that in 20 years is going to be that timeless that you're not going to have to change anything, because it's not going to happen. But there are things that we can do that, within the next 5 years, you don't want your house to feel dated, because it's a lot of work to change things out and it's a lot of money. Right now, I would say some of the trends that I'm seeing are in flooring. I see, we've all been doing these really wide planks in our flooring for a while. I see them going more and more narrow, which is interesting. And everything comes full circle. That's been in style. It's been out of style. It's been back in style. And I'm not saying that wide plank floors, here we go. Right here on the front of the book, we've got wide plank floors. I'm not saying they're out by any means, but I have been seeing a trend towards smaller planks again, which is very fun. And then as far as paint colors go, that's something that, is fun to watch the trends in, because you can always change out your paint colors. So everything has been gray for years and years. Gray walls, gray cabinets are still really in, but they've been in for a while now. And I'm seeing more of a shift back towards brown, which is very interesting, because the early 2000s, everything was brown. We had brown travertine and brown cabinetry and everything went brown. But I'm seeing a lot of organic textures being brought in, and with that, the browns are back. So that's my trends, my trend prediction right now.
That's for 2021. What do you think for 2022? Like, do you see things that is really starting to pop up that you think is going to be the next thing? Like if you wrote this book and, you finished it and you're like, oh, I wish I could have included this in it.
It's tough. It's really tough. The thing that I'm seeing right now, I'm actually seeing kind of an insurgence, if you will, of really clever organization. So people are kind of doing away with a lot of areas that might have been set aside for entertaining, like a wet bar or something like that. And they're kind of doing away with that. And they're doing a lot more like built-in desks, homework nooks, reading nooks, like spaces where you can actually use your house, not just when folks are over. And I say that, I have a wet bar in my own house and I love it. And I don't know that I'm going to get rid of it, but it is interesting. I'm seeing a lot of clients kind of say, I'm not as interested in the wet bar. So if you're building a house, food for thought.
Well, and also we're all having to figure out how to use spaces in our homes, because we're here, we're working here, we are learning here, all of that. So it's sort of like we're getting creative, and that's that floor plan that you put out, the before and afters, it gives you so many ideas of how to look at your space in a different way. Okay, everybody watching wants to get some of the behind the scenes, the HGTV scoop. Let's get Dina, who's saying, Jasmine, my husband and I are obsessed with Help I Wrecked My House. How bad are the houses really? We've seen some crazy disasters. Do people really think that they can do that all by themselves, especially the electrical? Is this real? It's crazy to watch.
Yes, it's real. Oh my gosh. Okay. And let me just tell you, because of like liability and that kind of stuff, some of the stuff we don't even show. I mean, it gets wild. Like there was this one house I showed up and literally the husband, it's not always the husband. I will say it goes both ways, but in this instance, the husband had taken every window out of the house
Himself?
They had no windows in their house and they hadn't ordered new windows. Anybody that's ordered windows knows it takes months to get new windows in. They had no windows. And so, yes, the disasters are real. I only wish I could help all the folks that call and send in. And, obviously I can only do so many houses at a time, but people really do get overzealous and they underestimate how hard things are. And they also, I think, we've all done this. We've all taken on a project that is too big for us, right? But I think, when it comes to electrical and plumbing and gas lines, like, no, you have to leave it to the pros. But yeah, people really go for it.
She also says, how is Hazel? She's adorable.
I wish I I'm at my warehouse, you guys, and she's at home. So I'm at work. She's doing really good. She just turned 18 months old. I have to show you guys. So in the book, on the very last page, right here, right at the end. So this is a photo of Hazel's nursery, and this is Hazel, and this is on Halloween last year. That was the last photo shoot of the book. And so, yeah, that was a year ago, right? Almost to the day. And that's when I finished photographing the book. And so, yeah, she made it in.
You must be so happy. It must be a whole different home when you have your little one in here. Caitlin's asking, thank you for all of your wonderful TV shows. Do you have any advice for those that are moving into a new build cookie cutter home, a blank canvas of a home?
Yes. Watch Hidden Potential. I'm just kidding. So I did a show. I did a show on HGTV called Hidden Potential. And that was the whole purpose of that show, how to bring cookie cutter homes and make them personal. And so, yeah, my advice would be just to kind of go room by room. Well, first of all, start with chapter 1 in the book, find your style. That's always this place you start, no matter what project you're taking on. If you are moving into a rental, if you have lived in your house for 20 years, you want to change things. If you're moving into a cookie cutter home or a custom home or anything, once you find your style, and if you have, other people that are living with you or have want to kind of weigh in on the design, once both of you find your style and then you find your joint style, once you figured that out and you have that as like your guiding light for your project will go so much easier. And that's where you start. You'll have this kind of roadmap or this path forward, knowing, okay, everything I do has to fall back into this house story, my design style. But I would go room by room and just kind of take stock as to what you already have, make a list of what you might want to change. And then what I do is I start a Pinterest board for every room and I start pinning ideas. And that usually, goes on for a little while until I start kind of really honing in as to what it is that I want to do in each room.
Even you have a Pinterest board? I love to hear that you have
thousands of Pinterest boards. That's all I do.
But that you rely on that for yourself, like personally, that even the designer looks to that as you need to focus on your inspiration. Like this is something that you practice as well. And you take us through each room of the house. You walk people through so that once they gather that story, you can execute it in each room. And someone in here chiming in, Dawn, said, I just want to thank you for all you're teaching us. We remodeled our 1983 kitchen with lots of inspiration. Keep it up. We appreciate what you do. And I think that that's got to feel really good because you're not just a TV star. Like you're changing people and the way that they are able to live in their homes in a really time when the home is much of what we have. How does it feel for you to be that kind of influence in so many? Because I could read a bunch of these different ones, just
That's
sharing
so
how much
sweet.
they
No,
really appreciate you.
I, well, I'm flattered, first of all, and that's so sweet to hear. And, that is why. That's the why. That's why I do what I do, just in the hopes that, I can't, like I said, I can't do every single client or every single person that wants to become my client. I can't help every single person that's wrecked their house. But with my show and hopefully with this book and with my website, I'm just trying to put as much information out there to hopefully help folks that, are just trying to make their house nice. That's really all it comes down to. We just want to be happy in our homes. And I love what Pam said at the beginning, that home renovation has been the banana bread of the last couple of years, because it really has. I mean, we've all been home more than we've ever been, and we're using our houses in a different way, and we're looking at the concept of home in a totally new way. And I think this book can help us do that and help us be comfortable with that, and also give ideas. So it's kind of like a very tangible Pinterest, where you can go through and you can be like, okay, that is a really good idea, or that is what I want. That is, now I can show my contractor, or now I can show my husband, or whatever it is. I think that, that's kind of the idea behind the book, just to kind of spark that interest, and then also give you a really great path forward to make it happen.
And you've been able to tap into so many different styles. So it's not just Jasmine's style. And that is what's so helpful, is that you go from modern to traditional, and you to more organic, and you really weave in ways that you can combine the two. I struggle with that sometimes. I want to be so matchy, and then I push myself out of that comfort zone of doing like a Chippendale railing with a more traditional wallpaper. Do you recommend that, or what kind of things should I steer away from when it comes to that?
I think that, the challenge is just, you have to ask yourself if the decisions you're making are because you feel like somebody else would make that decision, or if you're making that decision because it's really what you want. And I think that's the challenge. Like, are you making this decision because you think it's what your mom would do? Or you think it's what another designer might do? Or are you doing it because it truly is something that when you see it every single day, you're going to be like, yes, I love this railing and I love this wallpaper, and I'm so glad I did it. So I think that's the goal, right? To really feel happy every time you look at something. And if you don't, I truly believe that this book will help folks change their homes to make them just that, to make them happy.
And figure out what it is that is your style. Like when my mom comes and is like, oh, you like modern. And then I throw something in traditional because I know she's going to come and visit. You also have this e-commerce site, The Shop by Jasmine Roth. Tell us about that, because it's sort of like, we see all these ideas and then we're like, well, where do we get them?
Yes. So I have a shop. It's, I'm sitting in the warehouse right now, and this is where I work out of. It's not glamorous, you guys. TV is not as glamorous as you think. But yeah, so I have a shop, and it's basically all of the things I use. You've seen my show on HGTV, you know that we fill these houses, we make them turnkey. Folks literally just come home and like kick their feet up and live their lives. And so I found some really great pieces over the years, and I put them in my shop so people can easily get that Jasmine Roth look. And I also, there's one thing I just added. It's called a dirt shirt, and it's my first piece of merch. Like, I'm really excited. So it's a workwear line. It's basically what you would wear like on a Saturday if you were going to work on your house, and it says dirt shirt across the front. And the dirtier and the more paint, it looks like it's supposed to have paint on it. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. It's available.
Oh, that's got to be
in
so
a limited
exciting.
quantity.
And that's in your e-shop. But I also can imagine for you've got all of the things in line, right? You have these incredibly successful shows, your successful business, your book that's come out. What's next for you? There's got to be more things that you want to do.
I definitely keep myself busy.
You're a mama. Yes, you do.
I'm a mama, but yeah, I keep myself busy. So I'm actually still right in the middle of my book tour, and I just got home for a few days here, and I'm headed back out on Saturday morning. So I'm super excited about that. I'm going back to Virginia, which is where I'm from, and I haven't been back in years because my whole family moved to California. So I'm really excited to go back to Virginia. And then I have a few other projects in the works, but I can't tell you about those because HGTV will have me have me in trouble if I do. But yeah, no, I think, it's a really fun time for home renovations and for builders right now. And it's been so heartwarming seeing everyone's response to the book and just to everything that I'm putting out there. So thank you. Yes.
Well, Caitlin is wondering, she's watching and she's wondering if Hidden Potential is going to come back.
I wish, I hope, you know what? It's not up to me. I wish it was up to me. If it was, we would have done 100 more episodes. So thank you, Caitlin. Thank you for watching. The network could bring it back at any time. Same thing with Help I Wrecked My House. We just have to wait and see.
Do you have one episode that is just I know that's so hard, but is there something that's just the most memorable or something that strikes you every time you go back into a house?
I mean, so as far as like all of the episodes I've done, there is a common thread, and I mentioned it earlier, but these hidden spaces are fun. And, it's not just that I made a bookcase that you can open and there's a secret room behind it. Or for anyone that saw the season finale of Help I Wrecked My House on Monday night, which I know a lot of you did, a couple million of you. But for anybody that was able to catch that episode, there was a secret fort in the island. And so it's things like that, again, it's not just the fact that there's a secret room, it's kind of what it stands for. And that is that, for that family, a fort in the island was the perfect thing. And it made sense and it made them happy and it made their kids so happy. And I think it's just the permission to do whatever it is. If it's something whimsical, like a fort, if it's something super practical, like a hidden pantry, if it's something like, a dog cave under the stairs, whatever it is that, you're kind of holding back from, maybe you have a dream of having a she shed or a man cave or whatever it is, an art studio. I mean, I could literally go on and on, but I know because my clients come to me and they're like, okay, can I do this? And I'm like, what do you mean, can you do this? It's your house. It's your budget. The question is, do you want to do it? And if the answer is yes, then I think it's that permission to kind of do what you want to do. And that's the underlying thread of every single episode I've ever done.
What is that one thing in your house that's like that?
Oh my gosh. I wish I knew the page of the book, but it's in the book and I have a secret bookshelf. And there is a picture of me peeking out from it. I'm looking real quick to see if it'll pop up, but I don't know. There's a lot of photos in this book.
There are a lot of beautiful
here.
photos.
Okay, so on page 205, there is a photo of me peering out. Let's see if we can get the light. Peering out from a hidden bookshelf. And so when this is closed, this is the wet bar in my own home. This is the little bar area in my my game room. And when it's closed, you literally can't tell. And I don't know about you, but like when I was a kid, like a secret bookshelf was the coolest thing, right? And
it's like Indiana Jones.
Yes, it's the coolest thing. And just because I'm an adult now doesn't mean I think, if anything, I think it's cooler. It's better. Like it's one of those, like, I wish this bookshelf behind me opened to a room. But yeah, so that's in my own home. And it's just one of those things that it's fun. And my friends come over and I'm like, oh, there's a secret room. Can you find it? And it's like, what's better than that? So it wasn't a big
game, whoever finds.
Exactly. It wasn't like a big lift as far as construction. It wasn't a big budget item, but the amount of like happiness that it brings us, it was so worth it. So I love including things like that, so people can see like, oh, wow, we can really do this.
Yeah. People always wonder what your personal interior style is. And it seems that fun, that part of your personality comes across in all that you do. How do you describe your personal design?
I would say my personal style is California casual. That's how I would describe it. And it's taken many different variations for different clients over the years, especially. My personal style has definitely changed. My husband and I, here's the secret, by the way, my husband and I, we have the same style. So as much as I have to help other couples and as much as I have to go through and try to, help married folks like navigate so they don't like split up at the end of their renovation or the beginning, I have never had to go through that. My husband and I have always had the same design aesthetic, which is very, very helpful because we built 2 homes together. And so we started with the California Cape Cod style. And our new home, I call it the Roth homestead. It has a lot of traditional craftsman features, but it's a little bit more modern. It has some clean lines, and it's just very cozy, a lot of organic textures. So
yeah. And this is why you guys have been married since college, because it all comes down to the same design. So there's the secret to a happy marriage. Before we let you go, I do want to get to a couple more because so many people are chiming in, asking some questions. Shanna wants to know whether or not you've ever designed for a celebrity.
Ooh, have I ever designed for a celebrity? I've definitely helped some celebrities, but I wouldn't say that and I'm going to say no, and then I'm going to think of somebody later, but I wouldn't say that I've straight up done a full design for a celebrity. No.
And what about formal training for interior design? Gail's wondering.
That's a great question. I do not have formal training for interior design. I literally, like I said, got into this business kind of by accident. What I would consider myself mostly is a developer. And so I will buy land. I will then hire a whole team to help me develop whatever it is I'm putting on that land, if it's a new construction home. And then of course on all of my renovations, I have a different general contractor for every project. And I work with a lot of designers and architects and engineers. And I do love doing my own designs, but I think that's just a little bit more of like that creative side. And then I bring in the pros to help bring it all together.
And I think it gives us some confidence that, you don't have to have this degree to be able to execute this, that it Absolutely is possible for us to do it on our own through this book. Marcy, and I love this question, Marcy, good one, about the house you grew up in, because I read a little bit about some of the things early on in your life with furniture and things like that might have shaped you and how it did impact you choosing a career in this.
Yeah, I mean, this is by no means a tell-all. I don't get into my childhood too much. But I will say, I built a lot of smaller projects with my dad growing up, and we also moved a lot. And I think both of those things, my parents also both love real estate. So between all three of those things, by the time I got to college and I wanted to be a real estate agent, I became a real estate agent in college in Boston. It didn't seem like that much of a stretch because I'd been looking at real estate my whole life. I understood general construction, but after building enough sheds and playhouses and dog houses, I'd never built a full house, but I got the concept, right? And then by moving a lot, I saw kind of how to style and stage and change your furniture around and pack up and move things. And, none of those things scare me. So I think, I do owe a debt of gratitude to my childhood and my upbringing, just to give me the confidence to do what I do today.
It always shapes us and how we then give back to others. Cause that's like really what I feel like this book is. It's sort of your gift back to everybody else, all this experience that you've had and all of the tips, like the things that we wouldn't think of to save us so much of that time. So a lot of people are wondering, because they were going to be in person with us and I wanted to be able to be there in person with all of you and Jasmine, but they want to see whether or not is there a way to get their book signed? I do want to point out that the book's available from the official bookseller of the MJCCA, the National JCC Consortium a cappella books, and also, of course, all of your independent retailers. But some people have also bought this book with their ticket. Is there any way to get a book signing?
So I am going to Virginia next week. So if you're in that area
awesome.
or near that area, feel free to come out there. And the tour is not over. We'll be announcing new locations. And yes, I think that's my best answer right now, but I will be signing books all through the holidays. That's kind of the plan. This is the best gift. I just want to throw that out there because I've been signing books and people have been coming back. Like I'll sign their book and then they'll walk away and then they'll walk back over and they'll be like, I need another one. Wait, I need two more. And I'm like, why? And they're like, because my mom needs one and my sister needs one. And this is the best gift. And it really is. So anyone who is, moving into a new home or, is frustrated with their home or who's going into a renovation or is in the middle of a renovation or just loves beautiful house photos, this is a really wonderful gift. Or anyone that loves HGTV. I know there's a lot of fans out there. So I've seen a lot of people buying this as a gift, and it is a really nice thing before the holidays. So that's kind of I'm going to be out and about for a little while here signing books. So just maybe keep your eye on my social media and hopefully I'll be near you soon.
Well, they hope so too. They're huge fans, as are all of us, of not just HGTV, but you. You are such a sweet, shining light in this crazy world that we are living in and giving us all some inspiration. It's such a wonderful evening to spend with you.
Well, thank you. Yes. And the next time when I learn a whole nother book's worth of stuff that I'm ready to share, I always tell everybody that everything I know is in this book. And I'm like, they're like, what's your next book going to be? I was like, oh, I don't know. We'll cross that bridge. But I hope that next time we are in person, because that would be lovely. But I really appreciate everyone coming out virtually. It means the world to me. And, this book, as you said, it is a labor of love, and it has been so well received, which has just warmed my heart immensely. And so, yeah, thank you everyone for being here. And for all the good questions.
There are so many, and I love that so many of you have chimed in and wanted to be a part of tonight because, oh wait, there are a couple more. So Shannon wants to know, is it too late to get a copy of the book? I only got a ticket. And so Shannon, I was describing before the different places that you can get it. It's available any independent retailer that you can. And also Gail is just saying, thank you for being so real. I think that is something that's really unique about you. You're not a TV star. You're not, while you are, your personality is not. And I think that really comes across for everyone tonight.
Oh, thank you.
Well, hugs to that sweet Hazel. Thank you for this great book. I do want to mention for everybody joining us tonight, thank you so much. And I want to remind you to not miss the opening night of the 30th edition of the Book Festival of the MGCCA next Saturday night. It's November 6th. It's going to feature Academy Award-winning actor and producer Matthew McConaughey. Pam, get me a ticket. So the full schedule of the event is available on the website, atlantajcc.org. Thank you all. Stay safe, stay having fun, getting this book as a gift for your friends and for yourself because you deserve it. Good night.